Hey there, welcome back. Today we have something a little bit different. I am going to be reading to you some poetry that I wrote. I have an iPad here that I'm going to be reading from, so we'll get a little bit of iPad tapping as well. And the reason I'm doing this video is because in a video I uploaded a little while ago, I mentioned very much in passing that I write poetry, and I received a comment from the ASMR Samurai, who is such a kind person as well as a wonderful creator. I will link to his channel. Definitely check it out if you haven't before. And he commented and said, "You write poetry? I would love to hear some of it if you ever felt comfortable sharing." And for any other writers out there, you will know that it is a rare gift when someone shows interest in your writing. I think especially for poets, when someone says, "Oh, I'd love to read your poetry." That opportunity doesn't come along that often. And so I decided to put aside my initial terror at the thought of sharing my poetry out loud online like this, and I decided that I was going to be brave and do it. So I have pulled up my poetry publication on Substack, which you probably don't know that I have because I haven't mentioned it that often. It is called Love Poems, Life Poems, and it is a place where I have published my original poetry here and there, not super consistently over the last few years. So there are some poems here that I wrote quite a long time ago that I uploaded here once I started my publications on Substack. And so I will link in the description to Love Poems, Life Poems, and also to my main Substack publication, which is called A Little Nervy, where I share essays, personal essays, and I write you a letter each week if you sign up for my newsletter, and talk about mental health topics and my own personal healing journey with overcoming anxiety and perfectionism and that sort of thing. And I've recently started doing voiceovers of my posts on A Little Nervy, so if you'd like to get a little more of my voice in a different form, check that out and sign up to receive it in your inbox if you would like. I am also going to start doing voiceovers for any new poems that I upload. I think that's a really cool feature on Substack now, that you can add audio to your posts. So, I'm getting a beepy thing on here. I'll have to be careful of that. This is Justin's iPad, and I don't think that it's a weather warning. I don't think that I know how to turn those off. So this is a poetry and iPad sounds video, I guess. I will share links to those publications, as I said, if you would like to check them out. And a big thank you to Sam for requesting this video. This one is for you because I don't think I would have ever had the nerve to do this if you had not asked. And so I'm going to stop stalling and get into some poetry. So I did not plan ahead of time which poems I would read. Like I said, I would say what's on my poetry blog here. They're not necessarily my all-time best poems, and they're certainly not all of my poetry, but it's just a selection. So I thought, in the name of not trying to be perfect about it, I will just randomly choose some poems. I thought if I practiced ahead of time and tried to create like a playlist or a set list of what I would read, that I would get too nervous. So I'm just going to do it randomly, in the spirit of ASMR and tingliness. And so if you like poetry, I hope you enjoy this, or you can just let the sound of my voice lull you into rest, as we always do. So, I am nervous, friends. I am a little nervous, but I'm also excited. This is like my own personal little one-woman open mic poetry night, so I appreciate you letting me do this. Okay, so I guess I will start with the poem that I have bookmarked on my poetry blog, because this is one I really like. This is the one that shows up at the top of the page if you go there. And this is a poem that I started out writing as kind of a funny, quirky little poem about my cat. I guess I would say if I have a philosophy of poetry, it is that my poetry just tries to capture little moments of life, either memories or things that happen in my life. And so this started out as kind of a silly little poem about my cat and ended up turning into a poem about my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, who passed away when I was in first grade. So I didn't get to have her in my life for very long. And this is about some of my memories and feelings about her. Okay, taking a deep breath here. Thanks for listening, friends. I really appreciate this. So this poem is called Bloodline. My cat won't eat the catnip I grow. Shows no interest. Kale she'll eat. Turnips, powdered donuts, oatmeal left on the counter. But catnip leaves her cold. So I eat it myself. Nibble on its leaves, pungent and earthy. I've learned it's a nervine, a delicate sedative for sensitive souls. I'll take all the help I can get. I make a tea of it, like my grandmother before me. One of the tiny scraps I have of her, a clue, knowing that she did this. I know she was nervous, gentle, and smart. She listened to the radio and knew how its insides worked. The oldest of 8, she took care of everything. She cooked endless pancakes on a flat, round griddle I now possess, but can never keep as seasoned as she must have. Not enough bacon, I suspect. I can remember a little. Her house dress, pockets shaped like apples, the delicate crepe of her arms. She made me cups of coffee that were mostly milk. We played with clothespins and a coffee can, sewed together scraps of fabric. They tell me I look like her hair especially, the reddishness that aged to blonde instead of gray. We sit the same way on the floor, with our legs splayed back, the same sparkle in our blue eyes. I didn't call her Grandma like my cousins. I called her Mao. Not even a name, a cat sound. Sometimes I try to conjure her, remember her voice. No words come, just a chord, a twang in my mind, a vibration in my bones. soft, feline. That was called Bloodline. Okay, let's see. What else can I read? I'm swallowing a lot. I have a little bit of allergies going on right now, so please pardon that. And I'm probably a little bit dry because I'm nervous. I do have some water in case I need it. But okay, this is a fun one. This is a fun little poem called Quick Bread that I wrote once very spontaneously after taking a zucchini bread out of the oven. And these were the thoughts that inspired in me when I was opening up the oven and taking it out. Quick bread. Opening the oven door every time feels like opening night. A red curtain parting, the wave of heat like stage lights on my face. The intensity of smell, a prequel to taste. The anticipation, the darkness. Did it turn out all right? Will they like it? Has this little performance of flour and butter and sugar transpired as it was meant to? What will the critics say? Too soon to tell. Things have to cool down first. First there must be nibbles, careful consideration, or else gobbles, hungry chomps, muffled, full-mouthed words of praise. We'll find out later. For now there is silence. The outcome remains untouched, golden domed and full of promise. Tender. Perfect. So there's a poem about baking. A baking poem. Okay, I think I am going to take a drink of water. I'll edit this out if I need to, if it's a little loud. Okay, let's see what's next. I am just scrolling and not thinking too hard about this. This one is called The Poems Are Coming. And this is a poem that I wrote, and it starts with a quotation at the beginning from another poem, and it also has a dedication, and the dedication is that this poem is for my dear friend Owen, who has always believed in me as a poet way more than I ever do, and who will be thrilled that I am doing this and reading my poetry for an audience such as it is. I mean, I guess this is, I have 5,000 subscribers now, and not that all of those people are watching, but that's a pretty big audience for my poetry, so I should be proud of that and not think about it too much so I don't get scared. So this poem is for Owen, and it starts with a quotation from a poem by Margaret Atwood, and I will make a little side note that I did a video on this channel, a book review and poetry reading of the Margaret Atwood poetry book called Dearly, which this poem is from. So if you'd like to read the whole poem or hear me read the whole poem, because I think I read it in that video, you can check out that video and learn more about this book of poetry. So this first part is from Margaret Atwood's poem, Late Poems. These poems are the late poems. Most poems are late, of course, too late. Still, sing what you can, turn up the light, sing on, sing on. The poems are coming. I can feel them, taste them in the air, poking in from the edges, returning to me. For years at a time, I lose them, my head too full of stuffing, my heart too rusty, my nerves too frayed to see. But they always return, just when I've almost forgotten what they feel like. And once they start, they're everywhere. popping up in every gesture, every sound, each scent, each blade of grass, peeking out at me from inside the oven. There are always reasons for their return, and this time, I hypothesize, that it is you. Of course, it's always you, because you're the one that never stops believing in them. It was also Margaret Atwood, jumping into my hands from the library shelf, her impish grin imploring me, reminding me it's never too late, or rather, that it's always too late, but it doesn't matter. Either way, it's always time. So I let them in, and this time I have so little left to lose, it feels like laughing. It's no coincidence. The second I stopped caring if I was right or wrong and let my heart speak, the first poem, The Scout, knocked on my door that very evening, bringing me such surprise and delight and relief that I invited him in for cake and asked him, please, to send the others. And I kind of forgot that in that poem, I actually sort of referenced the previous poem that I had written about the quick bread, because that was one that just kind of came to me all of a sudden in this little group of poems that came to me at one point. So I invited the poems in for cake. Okay, all right, I'm getting a little warmed up now. Relax my shoulders a little bit. Let's see, I'm going to scroll down to some of the older ones and see what I can find. Oh, this is a good one. Okay, this is called Diviner, and this is a poem I wrote about a little girl that I knew. This is a poem I wrote after attending her bat mitzvah, and this little girl is now a junior in college. So it's kind of cool to reflect back on how I felt about her then and how proud I still am of her today. This poem is called Diviner. We have come today to celebrate her womanhood. This sparkling cannonball of energy and fire streaming at me like a comet across the sunny parking lot. The sharp slap of her fancy shoes on gravel, face shining as she yells my name, catapulting full force into hugging me tight. Her love stops me in my tracks. Her embrace is so much larger than her small but certain arms. I take in this potent punch of her affection. There is no denying it. And then she is gone, off in a flash, to greet the next of those she has gathered with her vast and gentle spirit. For a moment I'm stalled, suspended in stillness, filled to the brim with her straightforward tenderness. I find that she has cleansed me, purified me of the frets and cares I carried with me to this place. My fears burnt out by her reckless joy. Later, when she stands in front of us, those who have watched the miracle that she is grow through all its stages, she will speak with zeal of equality, quote sacred texts on unconditional love, admonish our indifference, implore us to live in peace. And I see before me a tiny prophet, a clear, strong voice, none but her own, claimed from the emptiness, unafraid to speak the truth, pulling the future toward her, unshaken by the shifting winds. Okay, let's see. Well, I did say love poems, life poems here. So I guess I should read you some love poems. Okay. This one is called Exposition. I really got in this phase for a while of titling all my poems with one-word titles. So I have a lot of those. And this is a poem about a love affair that I experienced when I was 20 years old. And there's a lot of potency and emotion in this poem. And it's a poem I'm still really proud of. I think it's a good one. Exposition. I remember waiting for you, often. Waiting in a quiet cafe, long past the hour when my friends, who were not so sure about you, had slipped out of the booth and back into the night, warning me to be careful of the rain and wind and darkness. Waiting in my little room, silently in bed, listening for the softest knock on the door down the hall, you being careful not to wake the others in the house. Aching for that tiny sound, my cue, to rise and let you in with the rain and wind, letting you in and closing the door and possessing you for a time. Somehow I was not impatient, though that is my nature, and I did not doubt that you would come, though you had promised me nothing. I wrapped myself in the longing, so sweet and pungent, a feast in itself. And later, much later, when the sharp voice of reason had begun to say, "Stop this. Go home, go to sleep, get him out of your head for heaven's sake," you would arrive. The gentle knock would come. The bell of the cafe door would mark your subtle entrance. There was darkness behind you, and the warmth of your eyes would undo me, always. Exactly what we said I don't remember, and that's just as well. Your touch is imprinted on my skin. The rhythm of your voice has never left me. I remember waiting. I would do it again. Okay, I'll tap for a second here and move on to something else. This is one that is about a very specific date. This is interesting. It's called Ash Wednesday, February 14th, 2018. And at that time, in that year, Ash Wednesday ended up falling on Valentine's Day. And right around that time, I felt like I kept seeing and hearing all these references to ashes. And it was like a list was forming in my head of all these different versions of ashes that I was hearing about or that came into my senses. So I put them into a poem. Ash Wednesday, February 14th, 2018. 5 places to find ashes this Valentine's Day. Number 1. Ashes to go on the front steps of the local Episcopal Church of St. James and Andrew, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Number 2. Ashes inside a small wooden box that he bought special at Salvation Army and cleaned up real nice, decorated it with stickers from the Rite Aid, Purple Hearts and Minnie Mouse, because she liked Minnie. a box to replace the cold metal urn they gave him when he went to pick her up, because he knew right away he had to get her out of that thing. He knew she wouldn't like being inside there. Number 3. Ashes falling steadily from the end of your cigarette. The last one, the only one, you promise. Number 4. Ashes spread beneficially atop a compost pile. Number 5. Ashes floating through the air, source unknown, upward into nothing, silent and alarming, a faint singe on the breeze. And those were all real things. I really did see a sign out in front of a church saying that they would have ashes to go on Ash Wednesday. And the reference about the person's ashes was someone who was a custodian in the building where I worked at the time, and his wife had passed away, and this was something he shared with me about going to pick up her ashes and how he wanted to find a better place, a more appropriate place for her to be. And you can see that still brings up emotion for me, and the fact that this was all around Valentine's Day, I just thought it was very, it was something that I didn't want to forget. And so sometimes that's what I do, is I put things into poems that I don't want to forget. Okay, I wasn't expecting to get emotional, but I shouldn't surprise me. Poems are all about emotions. Let's see. Okay, I'll read you this one. This is a fun one, and this is one it's almost prose, and this is actually another list poem. So we'll do these two together. This is called 3 Men I Danced the Tango With. And this is also based on true experience. Back before the pandemic, back before something like partner dancing would have been considered too close for comfort, one of my friends and I went and took some Argentine tango lessons. And the way it worked was really cool. I went with my friend, but then once you started dancing, the teacher set it up in such a way that you were constantly changing partners so that you got the experience of dancing with a lot of people. And so you also had this interesting experience of dancing with strangers. And it is, it is a very intimate dance in the way that you are, touching each other and moving together. But everyone was so kind and so respectful, and we were all very trustful of each other, and it was really a very unique experience that I enjoyed very much. And then they stopped having those classes during the pandemic, and then the teacher moved away. And so I've never gotten to take tango lessons again. But these are 3 real people who are represented in this poem. I hope they don't mind. I hope they don't mind. I doubt they're listening. 3 men I danced the tango with. 1. Brian. The instructor's assistant, but you never would have guessed it. So mild-mannered and pleasant. Stocky, broad, and ruddy. His vibe was cozy, hobbit-like. He looked like a guidance counselor or a florist, not a master of the tango. But his feet told a different story. When it was my turn to work with him, he gathered up my flailing limbs and tangled strings like a kind puppeteer, held me upright, helped my anxious body calm and settle down into the worn grooves of this subtle sacred posture that he knew so well. Gentle and patient, he reminded me of the steps again and again, carried my faltering fumbles smoothly along atop a cloud of joyful confidence. His strong lead showed me I was a natural follower. It was a relief to give up control, stop counting and calculating and trying so hard, to let someone show me what was right and how to let the movement flow. I walked to cross with him and got it right. His praise warm sunshine on my skin, a surge of triumph in my blood, recognition of my rhythms, of my instinct, my body solving a riddle that my mind could not. We all lit up when he danced with us, and were sad when our turn ended. Through his guidance, I first felt the magic and the ritual, the calling of the dance. 2. Ben. Another beginner, he was my best fit. Of the mix and match of partners I encountered in our day-long class. Lean and graceful, just my height, so our eyes stayed locked in easy harmony. Our frames fit perfectly together, a natural embrace, our breathing entwined. That's what he taught me, how two bodies move as one inside the dance. Helped me trust the balance, essential. I let myself lean into him, and he was strong enough to hold me. For our last dance of the night, our class milonga, pretending we were really in the halls of Argentina, he chose me with his eyes from across the room as we'd been taught. We moved together softly, through the simple figures we had mastered, not as two pieces, but as a puzzle, complete. We were quiet, immersed in music and sensation. Only his occasional whisper of, "That's so nice," when we hit a step just right. Blissful to exist in that space, and out of time, a waterfall of warmth and satisfaction pooling at our feet. When the music ended and we left the floor, the encounter of the dance complete, I felt I had been taken. My body had both given and received. 3. Jeff. An advanced student dropping into our beginner class, out of curiosity, I think, eager to see what was brewing there. Tall and bold, he swept me up, and I sailed along beside him. Within 10 seconds of our coupling, he smiled and said, "You dance beautifully, but you need to be patient." The story of my life, I thought. He slowed me down, way down, stretched out time with his easeful strides, helped me feel the fullness of each beat and the spaces in between. He chatted to me, coached me gently. "Take your time. Don't worry. I'll be here waiting for you." Again, so much about trust, about giving without fear, about waiting to be caught. The body's intuition, which we're taught again and again to bundle up and hide away. It was my smoothest dance yet. He made it feel easy. Showed me how much my body knows, that its judgments can be trusted. Made me want to keep doing this. Learn to be a better follower. Learn to let my body be the star, the guide. To get to know this place outside my mind, where I felt boldly peaceful, fearless, free. And that ended up being a poem about embodiment. And it's interesting, in the years since I took these classes, how much I've studied embodiment practices and about coming into my body and trusting the intuition and the feeling and the wisdom of my body. And I hadn't read this one in a long time, so it's interesting to go back and read that and see how that dance, those dance lessons really were early lessons for me in embodiment. And, you know, I just went to a samba music festival over the weekend, side note. And going to that 2 years ago is what inspired the painting your face at a music festival video, which I have, which has samba music in the background. I'll link to that if I think of it. And I did a few different they had mini dance classes yesterday that I did as part of that. And it just reminded me how much I love learning different dances. And so that's something I'm going to try to seek out in the coming year. It's a little goal I've made for myself, is to do more dancing. Okay, I have no idea how long we've been going with this, and I do have quite a few more poems. Okay, well, I guess I should read you one sad love poem, right? That's, you know, part of the repertoire of poetry. Okay, I'll read you a sad love poem, and then I'll read you a happy love poem, and then we'll figure out how to wrap this up. This is called Amputation. And I remember writing this poem. This was a poem that I wrote when I was thinking about how when we have feelings of loss and heartbreak and that sort of thing in relationships, not just romantic relationships, in all kinds of relationships, when we've lost something, how sometimes we wish that we could remove just certain parts of the feelings and keep other parts of the feelings. And of course, we can't do that. We have to have the whole package of emotions as humans. And this was something I was thinking about when I wrote this. This is called Amputation. I'm considering cutting out a piece of my heart, the special, secret, sacred place where you have lived so long. This isn't a decision I've come to lightly. I've tried everything else I can think of. Why can't I feel the joy of you without the aching? Why can't I be satisfied to have you just a little? I'm getting desperate. I can't keep walking through life with this wound in my chest. I'm bleeding out everywhere, the invisible carnage of being without you. So I've been reading up on surgical techniques, practicing with my old school light-up operation game, training myself in the precision to remove just the hurting part. I don't want to cut out your smile, the deep pools of your eyes where I love to lose myself. I don't want to slice away the sound of your voice saying my name. But I might have to sacrifice some scraps of joy if I'm ever to rid myself of this maddening desire. I'm sure it will be messy. There's little hope of me sewing myself back up properly. I'm sure I'll be scarred for life. But the idea is that scars mean healing. It might not be pretty, but at least it will heal. That's what I'm hoping for anyway. What I'm counting on. Or else I'll be left with a hole in my heart that others might peer through and ask, what made that? And I'll have to tell them that it was you. Okay, let's see. How are we doing? How are we doing? How are we doing? Are you enjoying these poems? I hope you are. I kind of bared my soul here, friends. I kind of forgot how much of my emotion and my heart went into a lot of these poems. And I usually, you know, kind of going through these all at once like this is an interesting, I always talk about my Rolodex of emotions. It's an interesting journey through my Rolodex of emotions. Okay, I wanted to do the happier love poem, but which one? Okay, I'll read this one. This is called heliacal, and that's a word that I found that means having to do with the sun. And I will tell you that this is a love poem to Justin, my husband, that I wrote a few years ago. Heliacal. I find you reclined, sunning yourself, eyes closed. The slim, hard planks of the wooden deck, solid beneath your bare back. Bright light washing over your skin, blurring your borders, your long arms outstretched. A misplaced snow angel, aglow in the sunshine. Content and still, you are collecting, powering up, absorbing golden rays into your cells and your soul for later discharge. I watch you there, the curve of your shoulder, the rise of your chest, the crease of your hip, and begin to crave you. The sweet warmth of your skin, the lines of your body, the promise of your taste pulling me into your orbit. Down to my knees to hover above you, blocking out the sun, inserting myself directly into the pulsing line of your energy. You feel the change in the air above you. Open your eyes slowly, taking me in, turning me over in your mind, turning me around inside, the sly, sweet smile of your desire. You reach for me, pull me down, entwine me in the fever of your limbs, the heat of your breath whispering softly, telling me my skin is so cool. Okay, I really have no idea how long we've been doing this. I'm kind of in a zone now. That might be... okay, I'm going to read you this one. We'll do a few more. This poem is called Ferrum, and this is about a time in my life when I was not in a very good place because I was not taking good care of myself. I had a job that was really stressing me out and really depleting me, and I also learned that my blood iron was ridiculously low, and that's something I've worked on in the interim years, and I now have a steady iron level. But at the time it was dangerously low, and so I actually had to go get some blood transfusions and some iron transfusions. And even though that sounds really serious, and it was, at the time I was just pushing myself so hard in my career that I really didn't recognize how serious it was. And I wrote this poem at that time, and I look back on it now that I think I was kind of making light of that time in my life, and that's kind of chilling to me now, and I'm just so thankful that I'm in such a different place now, and I'm well and healthy and taking care of myself. And there's a reference in here to Oyeyemi. I think I'm pronouncing that author's last name right. I was reading a book by Helen Oyeyemi at this time, and so there's a reference to that in this poem. Ferrum. It ended up being convenient that I needed a blood transfusion. It gave me a chance to finish up my 3 weeks overdue library book. Sitting in a comfy reclining chair, standard issue O.J. and Grams, the requisite Dramamine, making Oyeyemi even trippier than usual. Watching red blood cells collected from others drip steadily into my body, imagining who they might be, the people these cells came from, what they think, their hopes and pains, what kind of energy and memory and passion reside within those cells, what exactly it is that I am absorbing. feeling fortified, enhanced, like some sort of ex-woman, but also serene, gazing at the soothing nature channel on the wall-mounted television, purple mountains and fawns in the grass, classical music piping straight out of the remote control into my brain. Closing the book and my eyes, beginning to doze and wondering whether or not I would feel it if I had your blood in my veins. You know what? I'm proud of these poems. I was really nervous to do this. I was really nervous to share this stuff with you, and now I'm feeling really, really proud. I am feeling proud. And like I said, a little emotional, so I'm glad I did this. Okay, I think I'm going to read you one more from my Substack, and then I actually have 2 very short little bonus poems in a little notebook over here that I want to read to you, because that, I'm a bad left-hand tapper, is what inspired this video kind of in the first place. I'll explain that. But as long as I'm going out on a limb here and just being completely, yeah, I think this is a good one to end on. This is a poem that is actually song lyrics. It's called Banjo Song. And this has been a few years ago. I went to a songwriting workshop at my local library. Visit your local library. They will give you amazing opportunities to create and make art, etc., etc. I went to a songwriting workshop, which scared me to death, because even though I think of myself as a poet on my good days, I have never tried to write a song or anything like that. And I was just so curious as to what the process would be, like how it would be presented in a songwriting workshop. I don't play guitar or piano or any of the things you would typically write a song on. I played the clarinet and in concert band and in marching band when I was in school. But, you know, you don't usually write a pop song on the clarinet. And so I was just really curious as to what the process would be. So it ended up, it was a small group of people. It was me and 3 other people. The person who taught the workshop was a super cool guy. He was really excited to be there and doing it with us. And what he had done is he had come up with a little melody that he played for us on his banjo, and he actually recorded it on his phone while he was playing it so he could play it for us on loop so we could listen to it. And so I think there's a big truck going by. I'm just going to go with it here. So we listened to his banjo melody, and he wanted us to just sit and listen to it and write some lyrics. And he said, don't worry about if they rhyme, don't worry about, you know, if they're even, if they go with the melody, just write down what this melody evokes in you, and then we'll work together and make it into a song. So that's what we did. We each took time to write some lyrics, and then we came back together, we read them out loud to each other, we each attempted to sing them, which was really, really going outside my comfort zone. And then he helped us, and we took little bits of each person's lyrics and put them together and made them into a song. And then he played his banjo and sang the song back to us, and we had written this pretty cool song. And we didn't record it or anything like that. It was just something that we created in the moment that day, and then it was gone. But it made me feel really proud to do that. So with that introduction, if you have stuck with me through this whole poetry video, you are going to get the reward, such as it is, of hearing me attempt to sing. So I don't totally remember what the melody was like that we were actually listening to, but when I read this poem in my head, I definitely hear it to music. And so it's pretty short. I am going to read it to you, but I'm going to sing it to you. In your face, I see the moonlight. Your voice, it pools above the deep. Past is future, future's fading. You're still beside me when I sleep. In the sunshine, life goes on. Wheels keep turning, days spin round. When the night comes, I can't help searching. Beneath the moonlight, my lost is found. Seasons changing, the years roll by. The glimmer of your song some days feels hard to find. But when that moonshine slides through my door, your vivid melody won't leave my mind. So there's my banjo song for you. That was a little deep. That was a little low even for me, and my voice is a little scratchy, but there you go. Okay, so those are my songs, my song poems from my Substack publication. That was not all of them. So if you would like even more of my poetry, if you liked it, which I hope you did even just a little bit, I will link to that so you can go check it out. And if you want, you can subscribe, and maybe doing this will help me be motivated and have the courage to start publishing more. But I want to wrap this up with this little tiny notebook, which I used in my indecisive ASMR video. And while I was tapping on this, I mentioned that I had written some poetry in this when I was down at my parents', and I needed some things to kind of, I don't know, take my mind off everything that was going on down there. I gave myself this little assignment that every night before I went to bed, I would take literally like a minute or two and write a little short poem in this notebook. And I mean, they're not amazing poems because they're very spontaneous and I haven't edited them or anything like that. But since this was what made me mention that I write poetry in the first place and prompted the comment that made me do this video, I thought I would read you maybe just two of these poems. Let me see. From my, okay, I'll read these two. Okay, this one doesn't even have a name. This is just a random poem that I wrote on March 26th, off the top of my head. I love you like the dawn, before the storm of trees has budded, like the noon, before the stars rain down, like the eve, before the stones have found their calling, like the night, before the sunshine warms the ground. And then on March 25th, I wrote this little poem, which is a haiku. I want to experiment more with haikus. Haikus have a specific form. They have a 5-syllable line, a 7-syllable line, and then a 5-syllable line, and they usually have to do with nature. So this is my little nature haiku that I wrote when I was walking down to the creek a lot at my parents' house. So I think I'll call this Haiku at the Creek. The past chases me. Kneeling creekside, I look down. Muddy shells stop time. Well, thank you, friends. This has been a real indulgence for me, and I will tell you that I had a bunch of weird technical difficulties happen as I was getting ready to record this, things that like never happen for me. So I really think it was like some force trying to be like, no, Devin, don't do this. And I was like, I am going to do this. So I persevered because, those dark forces don't like it when we put our voices out into the world and when we share art and share our souls with each other. So this was my little act of rebellion today. in sharing my heart with you and hopefully bringing some good energy into the world. So thank you for hanging out with me. I truly appreciate you listening. Take good care of yourself. Rest well. Maybe write a poem. Read a poem. Tell me your favorite poem in the comments if you want to. If there's a poet you like or a type of poetry you like, tell me. Let me know. I'd love to talk about poetry with you. And I will see you again soon.